Hello, friends of Disney.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
Guess who's back again, again. It is I. I've returned back from maternity leave.
Megan's officially back.
You may now clap in the comments below.
Yay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And, okay, we had some things we need to talk about before we get to the movie today.
Yes, one, Happy New Year. Hope you guys enjoyed our live stream on New Year's Eve. You should be able to still watch it if you want to watch it.
And if you enjoyed that so much and you were a guest, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
And check out the Instagram as well. And TikTok.
Yes.
I'm officially taking those over, so prepared for the fun.
Which, blessed. I'm sorry, people, when I have taken over the account. There's been too much in my life right now.
Yes. But today we get to talk stuff. It's the start of a new year. New beginnings.
Well, we're currently filming this way in advance, so...
But this comes out after the new year. So
And you know what that means?
New beginnings.
My birthday's in a few days.
That is true.
Haha.
But new beginnings. New year. New me.
Baby, don't wake up, baby, don't wake up, baby, don't wake up.
Yeah, he's fine. Sorry, we have a sleeping baby Casper. But
We get to talk about one of my favorite movies today.
what movie are we talking about, Megan?
Encanto.
Did you say Encanto?
I did say Encanto.
Di Familia Madrigal?
But we don't talk about Encanto.
We don't talk about Bruno, which we're going to be talking a lot about Bruno today. This is your warning now.
We might get a little sad, depressy, because it's hard not to talk about the feels with this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to give a 1 to 2 sentence overview of what Encanto is about?
Encanto is about the family Madrigals who live in Colombia, and they're coming to terms of what their powers mean.
Yes, they are a magical family with a magical house, and they're given magical powers.
Yes.
Unless your name is Mirabel.
Or Abuela. Well,
Yeah,
Abuela has a name.
Doesn't count. Okay. First impressions. Do you like Encanto?
It's subpar.
Ooh. Those are fighting words for her. Ooh, we got to get into this a little bit. Megan, your impressions of Encanto.
I need a moment. Subpar?
Yes. Subpar.
You do yours. I have to have a moment.
I enjoy Encanto a lot. It's not one that I am one to just continuously rewatch. Not continuously. We watch it every once in a while, though. I enjoy rewatching it. But it's not like at any chance I get, I'm like, oop, Encanto, oop, Encanto, oop, Encanto. I have other movies for that. Mary Poppins comes to mind. But I do like Encanto. I love the music for Encanto. It has some really funny jokes in Encanto. I like it. I'm not saying it's subpar. To me, it is above par, but is not supreme overlord.
So,
Okay.
like, if you were ranking it, it's not an S tier. It's like maybe a B or A tier.
I'd say give it a solid A tier.
Okay.
See, for me, it's on the B.
Ooh.
See, Encanto is one of those movies that we can...
I would say let her have her turn.
I love Encanto.
If we haven't noticed already.
It's like a solid S tier for me. I remember when it got on Disney Plus, I rewatched it like 3 different times in the same day. I worked in a toddler classroom, and I'm pretty sure we listened to like the soundtrack for it every afternoon for like 2 months straight. Because I was obsessed with it, and toddlers, at least my toddlers at the time, didn't have the words to say no.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Jonelle, enlighten us why you think it's a subpar B-level movie.
It's like arrows to
I don't go out of my way to watch it, but like if I'm with my family and the kids want to watch it, I'll watch it. And I won't be disappointed.
Okay, but that doesn't. Okay, but like, why?
That's just the feeling of it. Like, it's the story. There's some good moments. There's definitely some bad moments, but it's
Bad moment. Can you describe what you mean by bad moments? Like bad moments, as in like the storytelling is bad, like something about the film is bad, or is it
so.
just like it's a negative moment?
I find the story. Sorry, Megan, but a little bit stupid in when it comes to Bruno's powers.
Tell me more.
Because Mirabel is obviously on this quest to figure out her gift or, how to save the family. And essentially, Bruno just tells her exactly what she needs to do, and there's not much like self recognition in terms of like her trying to figure out. She's just like, oh, sister, let's hug it out. And then it just immediately kind of becomes like a hug it out moment. And it's not like one of those things where they actually like naturally bonded. She's just kind of like, I'm going to force us to bond because we need to.
See, I disagree with that a little bit. Like, I see what you mean, especially on the hug moment. Like, that was very much a one-to-one. Bruno was like, "Oh, you need to hug your sister," and she goes, "Okay, I'm going to try and hug my sister." But
Isabella.
but it wasn't that simple because
I just
they fought
think
and they eventually, through song, like most Disney movies, they were able to come together. And it was the Bruno's visions weren't a one-to-one step-by-step guide. The only time that really happened was with hugging the sister. She didn't understand how the candle was going to glow. She didn't understand like how like she thought
the
that
story feels rushed.
interesting.
Like Disney kind of rushed the story.
I definitely can see that.
The music rushes it. There's not much extra detail to help. Like, if this was going to be like a live action film, I would hope that they would put in more detail about maybe a little bit more prior of how they came into the house. And I would want to know if there was ever moments where all of the sisters did bond, where the family had more bonding with one another and what kind of brought that disrupt from the house. So everything in terms of it going to the end of the movie, all of those moments of them getting together, it's rushed.
I'm gonna let Megan have her chance to speak before I say things.
I see where you're coming from. Here's the thing. I'm also obsessed with music. It's written by one of my favorite composers. I don't think you know this. I kind of like Lin-Manuel Miranda a lot.
This is why I live with her. She brings him up at least once a day.
Have not brought him up in weeks.
Every time we talk about Mufasa.
That's because it's written by Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Moana 2.
It's not written by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Oh no. I see I have a Lin-Manuel Miranda problem. It's fine.
And Moana 2 wasn't that good.
Because of Lin-Manuel Miranda wasn't there.
If you want to know why, check out our episode.
Okay. Something I really love about this movie. Okay, we're gonna bring it back to the music is listen, I have a reason. You say that like the music kind of rushes it, and I agree. And one of the main reasons is when the group of animators and storyboard artists and Lin-Manuel Miranda, they all went to Columbia together to like experience what it was like to do research and stuff like that. And so like the music was written alongside the story when it usually is written like afterwards, you know? And so that's why like the music is like so plot forward is what I'm gonna say. Like
Like a musical.
a musical. Whoa.
Like a Broadway musical.
Yeah, that's why we have big musical numbers. Like we don't talk about Bruno is because it's literally written by someone who wrote stuff for Broadway.
But again, it's like rather than like Little Mermaid, the movie, it's like rather like the music was written after the story was set, it was alongside it. So the music is quite literally part of the story to usher it along.
Yeah, like I would hate to say this, but you could take all the music for the most part out of The Little Mermaid and like the plot would still be the same. If you took all the music out of
It would suck though. It would suck. That would ruin the movie without the music.
I mean, yeah, but like if you took all the music out of Encanto, you would just be confused.
Yes, but I want more detail.
I can definitely understand the more detailed part. Like using my trying to stay like fair-minded brain and taking how much I do enjoy the movie and what it does, I can definitely understand like there are some questions that they try to attribute to certain events, but we really don't have clear answers for. Like we get the story of like what led them to where they are, like with what happened to Mir to Abuela's husband and stuff, and how like they were attacked, how they met, all that stuff. But once he died, there's no necessary explanation for the magic occurring. It just happens out of the
I
blue.
I think I kind of prefer it that way though.
But but the other thing is it's like, okay, let's take like where they once bonded together before they were apart. The movie paints this like black and white portrayal, like Mirabel didn't get a gift, and all of a sudden, as far as we can tell from then on, she was ostracized. But we don't know how gradual that was. We don't know any of the other events that occurred. It was we saw this backstory where she didn't get the door, and that's it. We're led to assume that that's the only singular event, but we don't know if there were other events.
Because I mean, like if I was someone who didn't get magical powers, like I'd be pretty pissed. Like she probably had a lot of betrayal towards her family afterwards.
At least her abuela. Her parents seem very supportive of her.
It also seems like Abuela is pretty pissed off too.
Abuela's like always is just judgy and holding a grudge against Mirabel.
Also, I really don't like the Abuela in this movie.
No, she's awful. A lot of people try to like this was one of the villains I guess pointed out as one of Disney's redeeming villains, where they try to redeem the villain. I don't see redeeming qualities in her. Like I validate her grief, but I do not agree that your grief, as much as grief sucks, and we've all have experienced some grief, 50 years worth to push that onto your own grandchild. Like, even with my own experiences, I can't even imagine pushing that on the baby, let alone in the future if I were to have grandkids, you know? So there, to me, she's awful. She sucks. I do not like her.
Okay. Here's the thing. I don't agree with abuela's actions. And she she is awful to her family members. I'm saying this as a Bruno of my family. Um, but I can also empathize with her, I guess. Sympathize,
Empathize.
empathize. And I think at the very end of the movie when they're in like that like lake and it's red and she tells her story, I think she has the qualities to become better. And I don't want to think she's like this like heartless person. I just think that she had so many yes people around her that like she didn't have an abusing viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Like she was the one who brought magic and protection. Who are you to go against that?
Well, and like obviously there's a clear message in the movie of it's okay to
Not be okay?
not be okay. It's okay to fall apart. Like you see that with Louisa. You see that when the entire house falls apart and they go to rebuild it, and the town's like, "We're here for you. Just we're right down the road."
And even Isabella, when she makes a cactus for the first time.
I love that song. That song is my favorite song. It's weird. I love that song where it's like, what else can I do? Because like it's Isabella experiencing that pure joy.
See, the song with What Else Can I Do? And Mirabel going to try and hug Isabella, I think could have just be taken a completely different way, you know? Because I really don't think it was kind of necessary for her to just be like, all right, sis, let's hug it out.
Here's the thing. It's completely on brand. If you look at Mirabel in her viewpoint of Isabella, she hates Isabella. You see it constantly. My favorite moment is during We Don't Talk About Bruno and Isabella makes her beautiful entrance, and you just see like Mirabel's face in the background was just.
It's just like this, like, ugh, she's here.
And so
I
it's
mean,
on brand for Mirabel to be like, just give me a hug, trying to get it over with. But the song for What Else Can I Do, I think is a beautiful moment because Isabella finally drops the being perfect and Mirabel actually gets to see the raw person and they have this special bonding moment.
see, that's what I'm okay with is Isabella finally becoming vulnerable. What I don't like is Mirabel trying to speed it up. Like if Mirabel and Isabella had naturally gone into a fight and, Isabella finally burst out why she's upset and then poof comes a cactus.
That's what happened.
Except it was more of just like, hey, we're gonna hug it out. And then
She was trying to, and it caused a fight.
I think what
yes,
Jonelle's trying to say is it would be different if
she wasn't searching for the fight.
yeah. It was kind of like, you know, when like you did something bad when you're younger to one of your siblings and your parents are like, say you're sorry to your sister, and you're like, sorry.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
To me, I feel like that's done intentionally because that is completely on brand with her character
And Isabella's too.
and Isabella's. And so it makes the moment that much more important because she wasn't searching for the fight. When I say she was searching just to get something over with, to try to get this candle bright. She didn't know how that was going to happen. Like, I don't, like, obviously she wasn't smart enough to think you can't just expect one random hug that you're trying to get over with. But at the same time, I think it's that lends itself to the point of Bruno wasn't clear on what to do because the events flowed exactly how they needed to. She didn't know how to get there. She thought just this random hug's gonna do it. She didn't know that it was gonna be this huge musical number bonding with her sister that was gonna cause and actually have that connection that was gonna cause the candle to grow and the cracks to heal.
See, I would have just loved to have more detail in that of like, it turns into like not just like, hey sis, let's hug it out, instead of just being like, more like, hey Isabella, like maybe there's another party coming up in the town and like can you prepare flowers for party X, Y, and Z? And then just being like, why in the hell do you want me to always prepare flowers? Like I'm sick and tired of preparing flowers for a party. Like that's all I ever do, I think that'd be a better conflict of fight to see.
I 100% agree with that.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't help again, like back to your point, like there's not enough details. There's not really much direction or even knowledge, even by the end of the movie, when everything is necessarily fixed, as to what's necessarily the driver behind the magic. Like we basically infer that it was the family discourse that causes it, but I'm like, was that the only cause of it? Like again, the unknowns about the magic lead us to infer so much about the causes of the breakdown. When did that start? Was that with Bruno? Was that with Mirabel?
See, I preferred, sorry, kind of going back in on some of the conflicts, but I much preferred seeing Louisa break down.
Yeah,
I love Louisa's song. I love Louisa.
See, that's the weird thing is she did the same thing to both sisters. Because she egged on Louisa in the same way she egged on
But
Isabel.
Luisa's breakdown felt more natural because she went to go talk to her as she was doing work for the town. And Luisa's just like, I'm sick and tired.
Everything's fine.
Like, I'm exhausted of helping the town because everyone just wants me, because I'm strong, strong, strong.
Mhm.
And then, of course, we see our musical number, but it shows Luisa's more vulnerable side compared to Isabella's, where Isabella's just like random spur to fight. Poof.
I guess. I mean, I personally don't see much of the issue, but I also I kind of see where you're coming from at the same time.
It feels more authentic. Like a more authentic, like way something like that would slip out.
See, I just think Encanto could be turned into a drama, like a very well thought out drama.
Mm.
And I like drama films, I have now realized.
I was talking to a friend, I can't remember which one, when the movie came out, and they were like, I would prefer Encanto as a series. And to see like the family relationships, because I feel like
See, I think there could be great series like of before, the take place of the movie, because then I think that's where you get to see a lot of those background relationships, like especially of Abuela's time, and then like leading up to the kids being born and why Bruno,
yeah, like the relationships between the triplets, how Felix, how does Peppa say it? I can't
So
remember.
you said it right a second time.
And then oh no, what's the dad's name?
I don't.
Mirabel's dad like came into the family, how like the cousins get along.
See, I'm just sitting here thinking there'd be some funny shorts of like they do stuff for like the town, you know? So I could imagine some really funny shorts of like each of them just like throughout their day and like what random tasks they're being asked to do.
Like especially with Camilo when he is like changing into different things.
Or like
People.
Peppa with the
Oh my gosh, yeah. Like, oh no, Peppa, we're going through a drought. I don't know, make Peppa cry.
see
Ah.
one character I can't stand, and I kept saying this throughout the movie, is I can't stand Dolores.
Dolores, I love Dolores, but I love
I
everyone.
can't stand Dolores.
I love the little sound that she makes.
I don't like her that sound because that little sound is like I get this vibe from her how much she's just doing stuff on purpose. Like in the very beginning with the very first song, and they're like egging Mirabel on for like, what's her gift? And she just goes, oh, Mirabel doesn't have one.
Oh my gosh.
You know, like it's she always
Casper in the clear.
like she doesn't need to bring these things up. She doesn't need to embarrass her cousin like that. She doesn't need to do these things. Doesn't need to tell the secret about how
But see, in the
Mirabel has
point of
vision.
storytelling for this, it happens in the song because we need to know that Mirabel doesn't have a power.
And I was gonna say, it's not a secret. Everyone besides these kids know.
And
Okay,
us.
yes, but obviously Mirabel's trying to avoid it. She's trying to avoid the question because it's a sour point for her. So then just, oh well. Like it may not be a secret, but it doesn't mean it feels good to Mirabel.
I think your gift is denial. Sorry, that's one of my favorite.
What's your favorite song, Jonah?
Mm.
If you have a favorite.
The at the end with the grandfather and the abuela and
The Forgitas.
yeah.
It does. I still cry when I listen to that song.
See, I love What Else Can I Do, but the song that always gets me and Megan to cry without fail is All of You.
I'll love you. I'll love you. It's when they're building the house.
Especially the ending scene with like the ending of that song.
We see.
They're like lined up to the door and they give Mirabel the doorknob
Mm.
Here's the real.
with the M on it. Like that scene, it makes us
Oh,
cry
every time. Ugh.
Well, the fact that the door lit up.
Well,
And it
not
became
also
Mirabel's.
that how they're all like, we see you.
We see how brave you've been. We see how hard.
But I mean, there's the theory that like the house is for Mirabel.
Yeah, which is beautiful. The whole room, the whole house is her room. Oh my gosh, I have something in my eye. Can you hold it for me?
Megan is not crying.
I appreciate how everyone is like. I remember when it came out, there was so many theories about like, oh, Mirabel's gift, Mirabel's gift. Maybe she's the one who like gives them the gifts. Maybe she's like the next keeper of the candle, whatever. And I'm like, why can't she just be her? Like,
She is the gift.
Like, why is it such a hard thing that Mirabel has? Like, the whole point of the movie is that she doesn't, and that's a driving force. Yeah, she wants one, but she learns to be okay with that. And was so many theories about like trying to make her like everyone else, and I'm like, that's not the point of the movie. This was something unique about her that she learned to accept and like about herself. And you're trying to take that away from, like, I understand why they would want to do that, but it bugged me so much.
I
Like, she
think.
doesn't need one.
Well, I have a theory. A film theory. Sorry, Lee.
No copyright?
No
No
copyright.
copyright, not spawn. Love you, film theorists.
Love you, theorists. Shout out to them. I think it's because Mirabel is the other. And regardless of who you are, you've always been the other in something. And you want to fit in. And at least my first time watching it, it felt like a robbery to Mirabel to, like, not give her one. Like, she was the outcast. And at the end of the movie, she's still, like, an outcast without magic. And I think people were rooting for Mirabel to get that gift, and it felt like a betrayal. And so they theorized ways that she could be as special because they kind of like projected onto her, and they wanted to feel special too because none of us have like powers per se, and we all feel like someone is more talented, more smart, more strong, more wise than us. And Mirabel reflects that. Yeah. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, I'm also paying attention to Casper.
I know. Casper's like asleep in the corner.
I thought Casper was waking up.
Oh, oh, oh no, I see some
Oh,
Casper
no.
eyes. Oh no.
Casper's up.
Okay. I will grab.
We'll let him be for now.
Yes. He seems to be being
Chill.
pretty content with the light.
Yeah.
Sorry, friends.
Would you want to see an Encanto too?
No.
Or a live action Encanto?
Yes.
I want to see a series of Encanto.
Because if they did what they did with Beauty and the Beast,
I'll go get.
pause.
Thank you.
He got so happy.
Baby.
Is he hungry?
He might be hungry. Shouldn't be. That is true. Okay.
I kind of forgot where I left off.
Megan was the one that was in the middle of talking. So, because you said you would rather see a live action.
Yes, okay, thank you. I'd rather see a live action Encanto because if they did, like what they did with Beauty and the Beast, where there was some extra detail and things like that, I think it'd be great.
I can see that. I remember Megan and I were talking about this when this movie first came out because there was a lot of discussion about like what the movie was about and its representation of like a Latina family, or Latinx family, excuse me. And there were some people that I might need your help clarifying this, but they almost were like, because neither of the three of us are Latinx in any way, that we weren't able to enjoy it to its full extent because we don't have
The historical
the same cultural context given about how often a lot of like Latin American families interact with each other regarding like the harsh familial aspect and stuff. And they were really harsh, saying it was almost as if we weren't allowed to enjoy it without knowing that. Even though we, even though every family kind of has variations of that,
Mhm.
and especially in our family context, we've kind of experienced that.
Yeah, Moana reminds me a lot of my mother. Like minus like
Mm-hmm.
intense war trauma.
Right.
They can't hear.
But yeah, it was really, I don't know. It gets weird, like with the way that people were talking about it, because they did such a good job. It was almost wrong. Like I said, like it was almost wrong for us to enjoy it if we didn't have that same. What are we looking for?
Towel.
Oh, I put it in the thing. Why not just grab a fresh one?
Oh, never mind, I got it.
Sorry, technical difficulties with Casper.
Yes, baby cat. But like, yeah, it's almost like they were trying to make us feel guilty for not knowing the full extent. It was portrayed well, and we were able to understand.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Well, I mean, one thing that I learned from international management is that there is unspoken culture that we do not understand.
Which is true, but that's not anyone's fault.
But there may be some unspoken culture in this movie that we're still not going to understand, even though the message is very clear.
And that is true, and I 100% get that, but
And I mean, like in general, from what I've learned about Hispanic culture, is that you really have to gain the trust of, like your family is your family, and there is that trust, and you do whatever you can to like take care of them, essentially.
mhm.
And that's like in international management, like we were talking about, like if you go to Japan, like the one person who's talking is going to be the one making all the decisions. So if they give like a head nod, you go with it. But like if you're coming into Mexico or wherever in a Latina heritage, whatever they say or like whatever you say to them, it's not going to be perceived at all because they do not care about your point of view. They care about their own. And so if they say they want to drink with you, you have to drink with them. Like whatever they say goes.
Mhm.
And other countries, Megan is coming back, but in other countries, things are more perceived of, America has a very busy, busy culture. And we're very loud and outspoken. So we are very direct with our emotions compared to other countries. And other countries are more with their family or they're quiet about it. And I don't know if you've paid attention to this on TikTok, but there's like those Japanese cheerleaders that go like do 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 do, and then anyways. It's really cute, but besides that point, I think they make an absurd amount of money too, as from my understanding. But
Like, from what I've heard, like they go hard in like sports in Japan,
Yeah,
including cheerleading,
but
which is a sport. Come at me in the comments. I dare you.
the Japanese culture is actually much more like conservative, is a good way to put it. And so for the girls cheerleading like that, it's kind of taboo.
Yeah. But I wish there wasn't the general culture of it's like it's not our fault if we don't know these differences because we do live in different cultures. Obviously, most people should be more than happy to learn about them, but that doesn't mean we can't enjoy things that represent that culture, especially if it's done really well, like in Kanto. Like, even though we don't know those things, that doesn't mean we can't.
I'm just saying, like, you can enjoy the movie. There's just things that we may not understand.
I guess what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying.
I think what Sean is trying to say is that
As Sean crawls towards Casper Jr.
yeah, the baby. He just woke up from his nap, so he's a little cranky. I think what Sean is trying to say, and Sean can correct me if I'm wrong, is there are cultural differences that we don't understand, but we shouldn't be like bashed for not understanding them. That he wishes that back then, people would be like, "Hey, you probably don't know this, but this is how culture's set up in my home." And like in my culture, instead of being like, well, you can't understand, and you, does that make sense?
I was like, but another thing I kind of want to say is like, unfortunately, like we're in a society though that, like, you know, we're not going to move past this just yet.
No.
Because I mean, like the United States, we have different cultures inside of our own country. Like you go anywhere, language is different, you know. And obviously, we still have a thing against segregation in some areas. And I kind of hate to bring that up, but you know, it's true though. And then now we're having against like gender affirming care and stuff like that. And
I'm sorry, I'm watching Sean Jerry
oh,
a bottle for baby Casper.
you're all good.
But I swear I am paying attention. I'm not just like zoning out.
But it's just kind of one of those things where it's just, you know, people are going to be like, well, you have like, they're just going to continue to bash for whatever reason to bash because our like cultures haven't fully combined yet. And we're still at great divides.
Okay, I have thoughts because I totally agree with you. And I feel like I'm part of the problem. Hear me out. Hear me out. These two people lived in a very different place than me growing up. I grew up in a very white, very, very white place where I only had one person of a different skin tone than me in my entire elementary school.
Yeah, Janelle and I lived very closely with reservations, and
Well, I mean, when I lived in Oregon, well, okay, I guess, well, when I lived in Oregon, I also dealt with a lot of different races too. So I was like, and I'm like, oh, never mind. I guess I did.
Yeah. So, like, as a small child, I'm talking like under the age of 5, I thought people like made up that there were other languages. Like you just made a language up with your friends, you know? Like that was it. And like I was super naive and like didn't understand that there were like different cultures with different foods.
you're also like a child growing up. Like obviously, by the time you're like in middle school and high school, you obviously learned.
I did, but like I don't think I ever met someone from outside the country until I was 15. I didn't I didn't know someone who spoke a different language than me until I was 14. Like it took me a while. It took me until like my like junior year of high school to eat like something that wasn't American.
I had some classmates in elementary who spoke full Spanish 24/7.
Yeah, no, that wasn't a thing.
See, I hope the American education has gotten a little bit better, because I remember like in like second grade, I remember learning about like Martin Luther King and obviously all that stuff around his time in like the civil rights movement and stuff. And so I'm learning about like people who are black or consider themselves African American. I had a weird gap where I thought everyone who was like black could like speak African. And there was like a number of people who were like black, but they couldn't speak like African. And I was like, but, huh?
Like we're talking about when we were kids.
Yeah.
I think one of the most annoying things for me was the reservation I lived on. All of the Native Americans, like growing up, would say that they're black when they're not. They are Native American, and we had one actual black kid in our class. There was only one black family in the town, except now I think there's more. But it was
Baby Casper.
baby Casper holding their own bottle. But it was just kind of one of those things where I'm like, you are misappropriating yourself, and and then a few years later came out the lady who defined herself as a black woman, and
Oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Do you know about this?
I think so, yeah.
she was an EWU professor.
An EWU professor who is white.
Yep, I know exactly what we're talking about.
Yes.
Like,
Let's-
yeah.
I don't want to bring that up.
But
No. Mm-mm.
and now like we're kind of in a society today where if I was to go back on the reservation and they say something like that, they'd be like, well, I think that I am because of how our country is progressing, but at the same time no one is accepting of it either.
Well,
It's turning a blind eye is what our country is.
well, it's weird that this is the conversation we're getting to, but I remember when in the middle of COVID, like during the pandemic in 2020, I remember talking with someone and they would get so upset when racism would get talked about. And they're like, racism only exists when you talk about it.
And that is true. I did learn that from African American literature. EWU was essentially like racism did not exist until someone created it. Someone decided to have the prejudice of
Well,
race.
Well, there's that part of it, but I'm also like, I can't help but like that phrase you use, turning a blind eye, or like ignorance is bliss. It's like, well, yeah, if we don't talk about it or we don't give it the attention it needs, then it's easy to say that it doesn't happen because you're not paying attention to it. You're
Except,
turning a blind eye.
and now it's more of like people acknowledge that it's there, but they're not choosing to accept it, so they're turning their own blind eye.
Yeah. And so it's like that phrase of like racism only exists when you talk about it. It's like, well, that's because we're paying attention to it. It's not like you're saying when we talk about it, it creates it. It's acknowledging that it's there and actually paying attention to the problem.
And we're not paying attention to the problem.
You look like you want to say things.
I have thoughts.
Somehow Encanto got to this.
Somehow! We love these conversations though.
How do I say this? I feel like I'm the worst person to talk about this. Like I said, grew up in a very white town. Didn't have like many classmates that were different skin tones than I was.
You haven't had a lot of exposure to that growing up.
No. And so I remember very specifically, we were talking about Rosa Parks in my middle school, and my teacher goes, we need to be kinder to our black students. And one of the white students raised their hand and was like, there's not a black student in our hallway. Because, like, our hallway was basically like our class, right? And they were like, that's like a great idea, but like, how? If, like,
We don't have any.
we don't have any. Like, I feel like I'm not the best person to talk about it.
It's kind of like one of those things where it's like, don't smoke. Smoking is bad for you. Okay, I'm 10. I can't buy cigarettes.
Right? Like, don't do drugs. Great. Well, if I said that to baby Casper's like, I only care about milk.
It's like telling guys.
Like, don't get pregnant.
Because, like, that's something that happened to me in elementary. You know, they'd bring in people and they're like, smoking is bad for you. Don't smoke. Promise you're never going to smoke now. And look at where I am now.
They did that for me in elementary school. I mean, in middle school. It was with alcohol one day. The next day was like marijuana and drugs. Next day was caffeine. To
Yeah.
this day, I've not touched.
And in school, they started it in second grade in Oregon. And it was just kind of like, cool, but I can't really buy those things. And then I moved to Grand Coulee, obviously, and it was mentioned up in middle school. But at that point, you know, Grand Coulee is such a weird culture that those things are already happening at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So there was more use for it. But living in Oregon when you're like really only like 7 or 8 years old, it's just kind of like, cool, well, recess is in 20 minutes.
Like, I just want to talk about, like, the new Princess movie that came out.
Yeah.
I want to go play tag and jump some rope.
Like, maybe if it was like more towards high school or something, you know, a little bit more in the age appropriate zone.
Where the peer pressure really starts to come in.
Yeah.
Because, like, again, for me, it was in middle school, so I was really able to, like, really actually understand it. And again, to this day, I haven't touched any of those three things. Because I was actually able to more or less understand what was going on. And if anyone's asking about the caffeine, yeah, I don't drink caffeine.
Nope.
I like my sleep too much. I don't touch caffeine.
I'm a mixture of all horrible things, apparently.
This is why I'm such a good influence on you.
I don't. There's such thing as taking things responsibly, and everyone has their own limits. Some people can't, like, touch them.
I'm trying to remember which YouTube doctor said this, but, you know, they started preaching essentially. It's just like, you know, there are people like me who have gotten into like a nicotine addiction, or others who have gotten into an alcohol addiction, and others who have gotten into an opioid addiction. And it's like, you know, maybe instead of having a pack a day, having, you know, like 3/4 a pack a day is better than it was yesterday. And this kind of falls more into the economics theory of $1 today is worth more than $1 tomorrow. And so it shows forth that like the progress now is better than it was yesterday. So it's healthier for me today than it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know what the future holds.
It shows that, like, progress to go full circle back to Encanto. Like, baby steps is still movement. You know, like, with all too well, like they were saying, like, we need a new foundation. It's not perfect, but it's better than what we had.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Don't you love how I came back around?
Yeah, because we did get on some weird
You went
subjects.
way left, but you know, it was still a nice conversation. It was a productive conversation,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice to have. Meg, I'm going to ask you, the theorist in the room.
Oh no.
Do you have any in-headcanon fan theories about Encanto?
Oh, where do I begin?
Okay, let's talk.
Okay, so one of my in-head canons is that Dolores says in one of the songs that she knew that Bruno was there all along. And so it's my in-head canon that Bruno asked her to not say anything and she didn't. But we see she's really bad at telling secrets. So my in-head canon is that she whispers it all the time. She's like, oh my gosh, Bruno heard that.
Well, I was going to say that kind of aids my point of, she knew Bruno was there the whole time, but she kept that secret. But she obviously couldn't just respect the one time Mirabel didn't want someone to know that she didn't have a gift.
Weird theory. So Dolores hears things. Obviously, Bruno's behind the wall and he sees things, right?
Oh, poor Bruno.
So Dolores, like, if he's seeing things and Dolores can't keep her mouth shut, she is actively talking what Bruno is saying. By not talking about Bruno, she's talking about what Bruno is saying.
Mm.
Huh?
So, like, okay, imagine
If she can't talk about Bruno, she will talk about what Bruno is saying.
So, like, let's say that Bruno took some things from the kitchen. She can't say that Bruno took it. She'd just be like,
The mouse took it.
the rats took it.
Yeah. Or, like, you know how he was able to see the whole family sit at the dinner table and the family is talking about certain things that may have happened in the town? Maybe he overheard some of those things at dinner table conversation and was talking about them behind the walls, and Doris was listening in.
I see what you're saying.
Being a third communicator without communicating.
Everyone, you remove your mics. I don't want to be heard on the podcast, but I want the reaction to be on the podcast. So move your mics away.
What? Oh, spicy!
I knew you were
But
going to say
also
that.
gross.
Okay, for someone who can hear stuff miles away,
She can hear everything in the
she
video.
can hear everyone singing in the shower. She can hear every baby screaming in the middle of the night.
Can I
Born. That poor woman has the worst gift imaginable.
Can I tell you one of my favorite like moments? So at like the celebration where Antonio gets his gift, there's fireworks that go off, and there's like a scene that pans down to the crowd, and you can see Dolores covering her ears. And just like that's such a good attention to detail. It makes me so happy.
Oh my gosh. So, I don't know if you know this, John. I know if we've talked about this.
Mhm.
Realize how each of the groups of gifts kind of, or like each of the characters kind of correlate with like iconic trios.
Yes, no, I was literally going to bring that up not that long ago because you've
Yes.
told me about this before.
Yes, because
Yes.
Abuela's kids, so Mirabel's mom, Peppa, and Bruno, like Peppa takes care of the present weather. Mirabel's mom takes care of past
Julieta.
memories. Yes, Julieta. And then Bruno can see the future. Then you have Peppa's kids, which is like a representation of like the common phrase of like hear no evil, see no evil, and speak no evil. Because Dolores can hear, Antonio can speak to animals, and
And Camilo can change.
how he looks. And then you have Mirabel and her sisters, which is beauty, brains, and brawn, with Mirabel being brains. Which I love that. It's fun to me.
I think the bottle is empty for Casper Jr.
Possibly, but it's keeping him quiet. So.
Okay, something else I would need to point out right now. It's like two things. We're talking about costumes.
Yes.
So everyone on Mirabel's side of the family have cool tone clothes, right? And everyone on Peppa's side of the family has warm like tones, which is so you could like separate like which person is in what family, which I think is really, really cool.
I never even paid attention to that.
Another fun fact. Sorry, I'm heading down my music roll.
Hey, I'm not done yet.
You go first.
Okay, the other thing I want to know to like put is if you look at everyone's clothing, you can like see like little embroidered things that like reference what their powers are. So if you look at Dolores, she has like sound waves on her cuffs. If you look at let's see, I think Luisa has like some weights on the bottom of her skirt. Obviously, like Isabella has just flowers everywhere. If you look at Camilo's poncho, it has like chameleons. Yeah, so that's it. But and Bruno has hourglasses. But my favorite one is by far Mirabel's dad, because let's see, he has a flower on his vest, which symbolizes Mirabel. No, Isabella. And then he has different colored socks. One that has, I think, butterflies for Mirabel, and one that has weights for Luisa. So he's like, yeah. And
Sorry, I'm looking at Mirabel's outfit right now.
which is awesome. She embroiders.
I was trying to like see if there was like anything that would signify that, you know, she has brains.
Well, it's her glasses. She's nerdy. I love that Mirabel's outfit has like a candle and a bunch of butterflies, and they have like little things that represent each member of the family. I think it's really cute. So yeah, now you can go on to your music theory.
Well,
Wait, there was a
music theory.
Hold on. Jonah has something.
there's a photo here that apparently points out to an Easter egg on Mirabel's dress, which is a reference to a cat that is embroidered.
Oh my goodness. Is that maybe...
I think that's Antonio's jaguar.
Yeah.
The jaguar's a cat.
Meow.
Hold up, I gotta read what this is now. I was just looking at things and now I'm seeing.
But no, so I love the intro song for Encanto.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
They quite literally pulled inspiration from the song Belle from Beauty and the Beast, because that Belle does such a good job of like establishing the environment, introducing us to characters, and so on. And you figure this is a 11-person family?
Let's see, there would be Abuela, and then the triplets, and then
12-person family.
like the two...
Because
like,
you have the 3 triplets.
and then
Plus 3.
Peppa's 3.
Get those 3. And then you have Abuela and the 2 dads, so 12 people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you have to introduce 12 people, set up a scenario for a whole setting in this town and the house in a matter of minutes. And so I love that they were able to pull from another Disney movie that was very different. You're taking a French movie to inspire a Colombian movie.
Okay, so I just finished reading this fan theory. So on Mirabel's dress is the candle to show that she is a member of the family and a part of bringing the family together. There's flowers for Isabella. There's a chameleon for Camilo's gift. And there's a hand lifting, so for Luisa. The sun is for Peppa. So essentially Mirabel's dress is made of everyone's gift.
Yeah, that's what she was saying.
Sorry, I just had to read it.
It's all good. It's all good. Oh, hi, Casper.
Sometimes it takes a different perspective. Jesus, that look is intense, Casper.
He's like big, wide-eyed. Here, there's like a phone right in front of me. So yeah, what Jonelle's doing. Just...
But another thing, like, I was only ever able to notice this with one character.
Who?
Isabella. Whenever Isabella anything is about Isabella, she always sings in the same kind of riff a little bit, because
He told
yeah, so that's in da, 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 da. It's the basis of her song, and like in All Too Well, she reprises it again. There's so many references. Whenever it's surrounding Isabella, it's hers making that same riff throughout multiple songs, and I just love that little continuing aspect, and it's only for Isabella from what I was able to notice.
I love Encanto.
It does a lot of good things well. Like, it does good using music to tell a story, the costume storytelling with like how they reference each other's gifts, how Mirabel has all of the gifts on her dress.
So I wanted to pull in a different perspective.
Oh,
Okay.
and then we have
Disney on Ice.
Okay.
Oh, before we get there, can we... I'm going to talk about one more scene in the
Okay.
movie before we transfer to like the different medium. My favorite scene in the entire movie is Peppa's having a freak out and Camilo's like literally like take a deep breath in and out and giving her tea. That just it makes me so happy. Okay, now you can go.
Okay. So I've gone to a lot of the Disney on Ice shows now here in Spokane, but one of them that I went to not this year, but the prior year was Frozen and Encanto. I love figure skating, and so it was great to watch. I still think the story was subpar because, you know, obviously it's rushed by the music, but man, watching Isabella, sorry, like swing down with her skates is so fun. And then also with Bruno, they like physically lit the ice on fire. And like, it's just like if the story.
Dancing donkeys.
Yes, there was dancing donkeys because I showed you guys the video. Yeah. Disney on Ice is like, if it's going to be rushed, I love that, you know? But like, I think that's a good way to rush it because you only have a certain amount, a lot of time, 30 minutes to tell the story.
Yep.
It reminds me of that one Lin-Manuel Miranda quote. Sorry, I have to bring it back to him every time, where he talks about in Hamilton the musical why they don't bring up every single detail because it's about this guy named Alexander Hamilton, and he talks about in one of the interviews that happened during the pandemic where they only have 2.5 hours, so they only want to bring you like the best parts. And I think that's what's really, really great about Disney on Ice is they just give you the highlights of the stories. They
Yes.
give you the most exciting parts.
Which is,
And it's done in such a cool way.
and this is why I like Encanto for Disney on Ice better than I did the movie.
That's fair. So does Encanto still sit at a B tier for you?
Yeah.
S plus, S plus.
I'll sit at a solid A.
It's still a subpar movie to watch. If my family brings it up, I won't be upset, but I'm not going to go out of my way to watch it.
I might watch it later this week.
Would I be able to swing you and say it's not necessarily subpar? Because B rating is still a decent rating. But would you at least agree it's not above par? Like, it is par. Like, it's mediocre, middle of the lane. Or would you still say it is subpar?
It's subpar in my mind.
Okay.
My heart hurts. I understand.
Sorry, Megan.
It's okay. We can have different opinions. That's why we're like friends, but like also, it's still S tier for me.
And this is a lesson today on the Friends of Disney on why it's okay to disagree and agree. Agree to disagree.
I'm not gonna hate Jonelle for this. There's not gonna be a screaming match, genuinely.
Janelle, you're dead to us now.
You know, I need to relieve. But for real, one of us needs to prepare a bottle for Casper.
Oh yeah, he is getting the angry eyes.
And
Yeah.
with that, we'll
see you in the next episode.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
Bye.